So Meta is down 70% year to date and it's trading in 2 digits. You should know these three things about Meta before making any decision to buy or sell the stock. So the first one is why it crashed, the second one is what's the future of Meta in coming years, and the third one is what you should expect if you want to buy or sell the stock. And as a bonus point, I will explain if I am buying or selling the stock. So the first, why it crashed. It is very important for you to understand why stock was down around 22% on Thursday after its third quarterly results of 2022. So the first point is that the revenue declined 4% year over year to $27.7 billion. And the point number two is that the profits were down whooping 52% to $4.4 billion. The third point is that the cost and expenses of the company increased 19% year over year to $22 billion. And the fourth point is that the free cash flow of the company is significantly down. And the fifth point, which is very important, is that the weaker outlook for 2023 and beyond. I will talk about this later in what's the future of Meta. So first, let's understand what's the reason behind the revenue decline of Meta. So during this high inflation, high interest rates, and due to the macroeconomic situations, brands are cutting down their marketing and advertising expenses, which is Meta's prominent business. The other reason is US dollar strengthening due to the interest rate hikes by the Fed, which also leads to the devaluation of the other foreign currencies. If US dollar would not strengthen, then Meta's revenue would be increased 2% year over year instead of 4% decline. One more thing which affected Meta's revenue is Apple's privacy policy, because for Meta it's very difficult to track the users and show personalized ads, which also led to 18% decrease in average price per ad. Now let's see why their profits were down. So as their expenses increased 19% year over year to $22 billion, it is pretty obvious that their profits fell down. And the operating expenses for the Reality Labs, which is nothing but their metaverse divisions, were $3.7 billion in this third quarter compared to $2.6 billion last year, and it is also expected to increase in 2023 as well. They are also spending huge money to increase their AI capacity to compete with the increased popularity of TikTok. Now let's get on to the second point of what's the future of Meta in coming years. So we saw some major reasons which triggered investors to sell, but now let's talk about some positives of Meta as well. In between all the negatives of revenue decline, profit decline, increased operating losses, the big plus for Meta is increased daily active people on all apps including Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp and Messenger. About 2.93 billion people every day uses one of these apps. In other words, around 37% of world's population every day uses one of these apps, which is phenomenal reach. In response to increasing popularity of TikTok, Instagram and Facebook Reels are also growing fast, and screen time has also increased for the same. And as mentioned earlier, Meta is focusing on increasing its AI capacity to grow this even bigger. And out of all the positives, the biggest positive for Meta is that the stock is pretty cheap today. Peak free cash flow in 2021 was around $40 billion, and today the market cap of the Meta is $263 billion, meaning it is around 6.5 times the peak free cash flow. Now, if Meta would be able to achieve that peak free cash flow again in future, then the stock will explode from this point. And they can do that considering they have a reach to 2.93 billion people. However, in the near future, I don't see any positives for Meta. And why I am saying this? Let me first explain the negatives of Meta and you will get the answer. So we know that Meta's bread and butter is advertising business, and we also know that the economic situation doesn't seem very good in near future. During recession, advertising businesses will be affected negatively, and it goes without saying that their income will also be affected. And parallelly, they are saying that their operating expenses will be increased in 2023, meaning they will burn some good cash in 2023. Because it seems like on the one hand, their income will not be that good and they will spend a lot of money on the operating expenses as well. So short-term investing is definitely not advisable here. They are expecting their operating expenses in 2023 will be in the range of $96 to $101 billion compared to $85 to $87 billion in 2022. As we know that the Mark Zuckerberg is betting huge on metaverse, so the operating expenses of the Reality Labs will be also increased in 2023. Even after spending tons of money on metaverse, it is very controversial that metaverse will be a success or a failure. And lots of investors are not happy with the fact that Meta is spending so much money on metaverse, considering that's not Meta's core business, and also metaverse is not a proven concept yet. But one thing is for sure, that it will take time, maybe years or even decades to pay off. Now let's see the third point on what you should expect if you want to buy or sell the stock. To me, it's very clear that it's not going to be the short-term play. If you are a long-term investor and if you believe that metaverse will be a success in future, then you can definitely invest in the stock right now, because the stock is on the sale and you can get into it. However, you should be prepared for some bad news in 2023 as well, keeping in mind that the economic situation would not be favorable to Meta's core business of advertising. In a nutshell, if you also want to invest in metaverse with Mark Zuckerberg without any short expectations, then you can definitely invest. But please also make sure to diversify and to not allocate more than 10% of your portfolio to any one stock. So finally, the time has come for the bonus point, in which I will talk about my personal stand on buying or selling the Meta stock. So I personally believe that to do something big and to be a market leader, it is inevitable to take some calculated risks. And I believe that Mark Zuckerberg is taking that risk on metaverse. Meta/Mark Zuckerberg has proven track record, and they also have experience managing the companies and nurturing the new concepts. So if you also believe in metaverse and to get benefited from the metaverse success in future, you have to position yourself when everyone is getting away from it. I believe core business for Meta is still not that bad, considering their growth in active users. It's just the economic situation is not favorable for advertising businesses, same as other companies like Google and Snap. I have a very small position in Meta already. I'm not adding more right now, however, I will reconsider it again in 2023. So thank you very much for watching this video. If you like the video, please do like, share and subscribe the channel. This video is just for an educational purposes, and please do not consider it as any recommendation.